This is sponsored by Leith Spirits. What we're going to talk about today, we've got Josh Landers, who had gone to West Ham. We have Alasana Manneh, who signed from Odense. We have Aberdeen on Saturday, and we had those controversial penalties at Ross County last Saturday to cover. Jack, you were first on the night, mate. I'll come to you. Where do you want to kick us off?
Say the game at the weekend, eh? Game at the weekend, Ross County.
What do you make of it?
Well, the penalties, me and my dad were talking about it. Quite the bizarre penalty gifts I've ever seen in my life.
So do them in order then. The handball one, what was your take on that?
Well, you can see, I was about to say Chris Cadden, that's not the right name. Nicky Cadden try to move away, so there's no contact from you there. Like, what's he meant to do? There's other players in the box as well, but if you're gifting that a penalty, Ross County players know appealing for it. It found it bizarre to me.
Right. Seen these ones given though, Jack? Have you know over the course of the
Aye,
season?
true, yeah, we have, aye.
What about the second one then?
Didn't see much contact in that for Jordan Smith when I was watching the highlights. It looked hard to describe that one to me. Because if the player looks like he's dived over him a wee bit, just by angles, but it's hard to see with the angles for me.
Aye. Do you think a draw was a fair result, Jack?
Yeah, it was a fair result, but should have won that fair and square.
So do you put it down to the referee that we never
Yeah, aye. The referee, aye. Dickinson's real deal.
the real deal? Aye. Um, what did you think of the game overall, Jack? It wasn't one for the purists, was it?
Well, it was after that big storm, wasn't it? So the pitch wouldn't have been the easiest to play on, because Dingwall's quite a hard pitch to play on, very bubbly.
And any Hibs players stand out for you?
Uh, Dylan Levitt, Jordan Smith, Nicky Cadden.
Levitt got on the score sheet. It was a cracking
Aye,
goal.
very good goal. Aye, that's. I mean, if he's played in his good position, that's. I think that's his position for yesterday. Was for Saturday.
And what did you make of the lineup for Gray? Like it's
It's
almost
a.
at the point of
Aye, he
picking
made.
himself, isn't it?
I think he made about 5 changes. I read. So he kind of changed it up a bit because you still got Joe Neal injured, and Kukarevich dropped as well, and Campbell was as well. I'm sure.
No, Campbell
Oh,
played.
was he? Oh,
Aye, Campbell played. Am I right?
terrible. I'm getting
what
confused with names here.
and what are you thinking about Bowie being back in the team?
Oh, it
Came
makes
off
a
the
huge
bench.
difference. It's like a new signing, definitely.
We'll talk of new signings. We'll come back to the new signing. I'll pick up here a wee bit, Jack. Ian, what were you thinking about the penalties?
Well, as far as the penalties are concerned, as Colin said that his brother-in-law was behind the goal, so I was probably standing right beside him. And Callum, one of our former contributors for the phoning, Callum was there with his lassie, and right away we said it's a penalty. I actually got it wrong because I thought it was actually going. I thought Nicky Cadden's hand had stopped it going in, but it was definitely a penalty. I mean, by the modern rules, it hit his hand, then it really changed the direction of the ball, etc. I agree with everything that's been said, that you said about the fact that it didn't affect play or whatever, but it was definitely a penalty, definitely hit his hand, and it's the sort of thing that's given all the time. The second penalty, I've got to agree there with Jack. I mean, but we just have to accept that is what forwards do. They deliberately put the ball past the keeper and then drag their foot. So, I mean, it's not a penalty, but they're always given. So, there's no surprise there. Neither of the penalties should have happened. I mean, thank God for Sunday, because obviously it was a fantastic performance and result for Hibs ladies and Grant Scott. So they totally dominated again against the league leaders. And they got the tactics right, they did a high press, big physical effort, they got the subs right. But Saturday was frustrating as hell. It was a real missed opportunity and very disappointing that David Gray seemed to accept it. And I just feel it's the wrong emotion. He should have been furious at our failure. As Colin said on Sunday, we have to beat the shite teams. And it was in the net performance against St Johnstone, and that was mirrored at Ross County. If you remember the St Johnstone one, we had a massive travelling support. There was probably no travel again because it was such a terrible performance. And that was really mirrored at Ross County. And we could have and should have been 4 points clear of St Mirren and in fifth place now, 1 point behind Aberdeen. Saturday was really a very poor result. And the worrying thing is it suggests that's a level of performance we can actually expect. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we got the tactics totally wrong. We didn't take account of the conditions. We attempted to make chances on the ground, around the box, pass it around. Previously, we've varied it in recent games by dropping it over the fullbacks and the keeper going long with clearances and letting Boyer run onto it and everything. And we had nobody up front for a high ball at all. So Bowie should have been in for Gale from the start in these conditions. And I think David Gray was just naive and somehow expecting us to be able to play football. I mean, Levitt controlled the game, but he, as usual, he was going left and right. I mean, there was no real give and go or through balls because of the packed final third, which is what Ross County did. So, but losing Levitt, and who I thought was very good, and bringing on Obita for Nicky Cadden had us switching to almost defence and drawing County onto us, which I didn't understand that at all. We should have kept attacking. Obviously, Rocky was being targeted by County and as the only out ball, and he did well with his diagonal passing. He really did. But Gray should have done something about that County tactic and dropped someone back to pass it out with Rocky. So really disappointing. The only good thing about Saturday was when I go to Dingwall on a Saturday during the afternoon, I go to one Indian restaurant, and when I go for a Tuesday night miserable nothing each draw on 30th October, I got another Indian restaurant. So
I think you're going to say I go to 2 Indian restaurants on a Tuesday. Which I wouldn't blame you. It's a hell of a trek up to Dingwall, is it, as well, Ian? And how much do you think the sort of the effects of the storm on the pitch and that sort of just the conditions played a part in the game being as shite as it was?
I wouldn't make excuse for it, Callum. I noticed Callum's joined now because Callum was standing literally 3 feet from me. But I mean, at the beginning of the game, the pitch didn't look too bad. It looked like the goals were the only thing that were sanded, but it cut up really badly. I think we should have been ready for it. I mean, they were up training. They were up training on Inverness's ground. I mean, I don't think it's a plastic pitch, is it? But I mean, they should have known what the conditions were going to be like. So therefore, we should have adjusted the tactics to be able to play long balls and to do what County did,
or at least taking wellies.
Yeah.
Just grab a couple of comments on the YouTube. Ian says high B's. Stevie says those 2 points drop could end up being huge, especially with Aberdeen and Motherwell losing. Hearts winning also topped off those lost 2 points. Both penalties were an absolute joke. Rob said, evening all, read Josh Landers. If you cover it, I'm always a wee bit deflated when we lose youngsters to EPL teams. When we'd likely be buzzing if a 17-year-old West Ham came the other way. We will talk a wee bit about Josh Landers, Rob. And Stevie says, how many times now have VAR shafted Hibs? I'll get your thoughts on that. I didn't think VAR shafted us on Saturday. I think the referee made some bad decisions, but I don't think VAR was at fault with it.
I've got to agree with you. I think VAR did what it's supposed to do. I mean, as I said, that's the penalty they scored from, that we just have to accept that that's what people do. They trail their legs and they dive, and it's always given. I've never seen any of them not given yet. I don't think VAR played its part in the game at all. I don't think it had any real impact. I mean, obviously, my view on VAR is that VAR should be, and it's been like this from the start, is that VAR should only intervene when one of the coaches asks for it to intervene, like American football. And also, if the referee asks for help, VAR should not say, we think that touched somebody's hand. Definitely not, because as everybody said, nobody claimed for it. And nobody claimed for it, including, and nobody even, Nicky Cadden, I don't know if Callum will probably notice, but I thought Nicky Cadden immediately looked guilty,
I quite like the idea of it being at the referee's request. Like I get about the coaches having an appeal, but I'm sure the referees do ask for help if they've not seen it. But I like that idea that the referee will referee the game, and just if he thinks he's missed something, go to VAR and ask them to double check. I quite like that. Stephen, what did you make of it all on Saturday?
Penalties, I think they're definitely soft. I can see entirely why both are given. For Cadden's one, you could argue that if the guy makes contact in the ball, it's going to be a goal anyway. But it's soft, but I can absolutely see why it was given. Second one, I think the precedent was set. a year and a bit ago when Kyogo got a shot away at Easter Road, edge of the box, and I think it was Joe Neal came with the challenge afterwards. That was given on VAR. Although I seem to recall Martin Boyle at Hampden getting wiped out by the goalkeeper. That wasn't given, but I think the ball was out. So I can see why both were given. The pitch, on the subject of the pitch, both teams have to play in it. So I don't agree with the notion that, it was a shite pitch. Ian's completely spot on. If you've trained 6 miles down the road the day before or the morning of or whatever, you know what the conditions are going to be like. And I can't imagine Inverness's pitch is in much better state than Ross County's as well. So you have to react to the conditions. That's 2 trips up to Dingwall this season and 2 points. That's not good enough. That's not good enough for a team that realistically wants to be fighting for Europe now, with Aberdeen and Dundee United being so close in the league table. So it's definitely 2 points drop. But it's been our Achilles heel all season. We're a team that concedes goals. We don't keep a lot of clean sheets. And when a game is sitting at 1-0 for best part of 30, 35, 40 minutes, as it was after the first goal went in, if you don't get that second, that kind of thing can almost happen. And I think, again, the last 50 minutes, 75 minutes onwards in a game, I think we're probably the worst in the league table. I think they actually said that in sports as well. So it's classic. If you don't kill off the game, it can almost happen, Matty. And that's exactly what happened again on Saturday.
It felt like we kind of got that trait out of the system. We've been on this run that we had to be giving away daft penalties or, having a man sent off. And you see the difference it makes the results when you don't do the daft things. We've been on winning runs and, we're still on that undefeated run. Does the finger of blame go to the goalie for the second penalty, or do you think he just kind of had no choice but to go for it like that?
Yeah, I think he has to go for it. It's a bit of I always find it quite strange when the goalkeepers dive almost diagonally out. They don't dive at an angle to try and almost cut the cross off. But you could argue as well that the cross we should be doing more to stop the cross coming in as well. Ultimately, I think what sits in my head as to how can it be a penalty is the question of, well, what's the goalie meant to do? He's going for the ball. The guy's got to take first. The guy's touch is put it wide. Jordan Smith can't morph into thin air. He has to go through him. But at the same time, we should be doing more to stop the cross coming in. I've always wondered why goalkeepers dive straight out rather than at a sort of angle. They block the ball before they go through the man. It's a bit of a strange one, but ultimately he saved the first penalty. It was a poor penalty from Jordan White, but he still had to make the save. So I think it's maybe a wee bit unfair to probably criticise the goalkeeper when, if the other guy had scored the penalty, we would have probably lost the game. So it's a tough one. And Jordan Smith, to be fair to him, I'm still not his biggest fan. I still think we should be aiming for a more inspiring shot stopper. But generally speaking, he's not done a huge amount wrong, to be honest, since he came in. Yeah. But again, I'm a firm believer, going back to the Rocky and the Bogdan days, if you've got 2 quality goalkeepers that are properly fighting for the jersey, keeps both on their toes. Fast forward to 5-6 years to now, you've got a goalkeeper that's come in because the first goalkeeper was poor. That second goalkeeper is still here, and we're now, 2-3 days away from the transfer window ending. I can't see us bringing in another goalkeeper and getting rid of Bursic, so looks like that's what we've got until the end of the season now, which I'm slightly worried about, if I'm being totally honest.
It's probably not an ideal situation, but I guess there was talk of them not being able to cancel Bursic's loan. I don't know how accurate that chat was, but I would have liked to have seen another goalie coming in as well. And I wasn't really kind of meaning to single out Jordan Smith. Like, I think it's easy to focus on the negative, but you're right to call out the fact that he'd saved the penalty earlier on in the game as well, and he should get credit for that. I guess he has looked pretty like a pretty safe pair of hands, Steve. After his initial game where he came in against Aberdeen, he has been, I think, sort of gradually improving as the weeks have gone on, if anything.
Yeah, but we're not, to be honest, we're not really giving up a huge amount of chances. If you look at match stats and games, teams aren't creating a huge amount against us. But I've thought this way about Hibs for years. It doesn't take a lot of chances for us to concede. And I think you guys picked up on it in extra time that there's games that the brilliant stats show, which was really, 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 really good listen. It doesn't. I've always thought it doesn't take a lot of chances for us to concede goals, and it seems to take an awful lot of chances for us to score goals. But you're right. If you look back to the St John's game a few weeks ago, a Rocky mistake led to the penalty, which led to them taking the lead and then holding on for the best part of half the game. On Saturday, I don't think Jordan Smith's really had many saves to make, and Ross County haven't created a huge amount. So, whereas we're not giving up a lot of chances, we seem to concede from the chances that we do give up, and that's been an Achilles heel for a number of years now.
Aye, it's hard to put your finger on why that is. We're talking to, I was talking to maybe he's trying to remember whether it was a Celtic fan or a Rangers fan I was talking about it, and Celtic fan, because they missed fucking loads of chances as well. We were talking about Aberdeen when they got the 2-2 draw. Aberdeen were hardly in Celtic's half, scored 2 goals, one of them a deflection, I think the other one was a penalty, and Celtic had kind of double figure shots. And he sort of says Celtic must have better strikers than Aberdeen. Right, Celtic have better strikers than most teams in the league. How do they miss so many chances, and how come the shit teams are so lethal when they play us? I can't get my head around it. It makes no fucking sense. Anyway, right. Mike said, felt the first one was a soft penalty, however, I can see why it was given. Second one, thought striker went down before Smith contacted with him. Again, very soft, although I'll claim for both if it was Hibs. Stevie said, hopefully this new signing is the real deal. Sounds promising, however, Venti was hyped up and he was utter dug shite. Ian said, goal, 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 that's the Hibs aim. So it seems, let's start scoring a few more and we would start winning these games. Rob said, Stevie, let's... I just lost I moved my mouse there and everything just totally went away. He was saying something to Stevie. Stevie, let's not forget Muller's highlight. Mind him, Chris Muller there. Is a blast for the past. Callum, how you doing, mate?
Aye, very well, thanks, Matt. Cheers.
What did you make of it all on Saturday?
I got caught up in the atmosphere in the first half after Jordan Smith saved that penalty. The place was bouncing for the end of the kind of half time, the super Jordan Smith and goals. With a lot of control of the game, and I think at 1-0, it's a really horrible situation to be in terms of like making any changes. And as much as County were getting more of the ball, they didn't really create any kind of chances. And I know a lot of folk have said as soon as kind of Levitt and Cadden went off, that kind of played into their favour, but they didn't really threaten us. What I will say is it seemed to be that with Boyle and Gale up front, the only other time they really got a foot in the ball was making these kind of wide diagonal runs and they went out in the touchline. So then there's nobody in the middle of the box either. Surface wasn't great, but we're passing it about fine at the back. I thought Iredale was particularly impressive at the back. He actually made a kind of running field and played almost like a striker splitting pass out to, I think it was O'Hora. But it just feels like a bit of a missed opportunity, to be honest.
And Stephen had mentioned, Callum, that 2 points for the 2 trips up to Dingwall not being good enough. We'd sort of touched about that on Sunday when we were talking about it. Is it a worry for Hibs that like that's St Johnstone and Ross County we've been away to in the last couple of weeks? 2 bottom teams, or 2 of the 3 bottom teams, can't remember whether Hearts are splitting them or no. And we've only picked up a point on our travels at both of them. Is that a worry, or is it better that we don't lose the game? Obviously, it's better than lose it, but do you know what I mean?
No, like something that Colin keeps saying about like you kind of when you look at it on paper, you can argue it's different, tough away ground and all that, but actually it is a team that we should be beating. They've lost 5 at home, whatever it is, drew a couple as well. They're a different team at home than they are away from home, but they've been like that for years and years and years. And we as fans know that as well. Like they played at Easter Road last season, they were time wasting for the second minute, like kicking extra balls in the park and all this kind of stuff. But we know when we go to Dingwall, they're going to be up for it. They're not going to batter us with great football, but they're going to be physical. And like even on Saturday there, every opportunity the ball just got pumped up the park, and they were just chasing like either if they didn't win the first ball, they were chasing the second ball and that. But it's funny. I've never seen us win at Dingwall, but I've never seen us lose either because every time I go, it's a draw. I think something does need to change because we know exactly what we're going to get up there, and whether it's 0-0, 1-1, God, I think with a couple of 2-2s up there as well. The only one I can think of was I think was it Porteous and Boyle scored. We beat them. It was like 2 long throws at the box.
Aye.
And because Porteous made a comment after the game saying we kind of played them at the wrong game. I think when Mackay was their manager. But we need to be winning up there. There's no doubt about it because they just set themselves up to be hard to beat. But they do that kind of they contest balls at the top end of the park a bit more than they would, whereas at Easter Road it's a bigger park. But we need to be winning up there definitely because that's you could argue it's 4 points dropped, which is huge.
think it's a mentality shift needed. I mean, Gray said after, and Ian, you mentioned it as well. Gray had said it's not a disaster. You know, to come away with a point. Disappointing not to win, but it's not a disaster because we got the point. Does he need to be sort of more vocally angry about the fact that we've dropped those points and sort of raise the bar just to sort of change, like everybody's thinking about a point being all right at Ross County?
I think you'll be thinking about the run that we're on. Because I remember a interview with Neil Lennon. I think we'd got hammered 4-1 up at Pittodrie. But it was a couple of weeks later, he actually came out and he said he apologised to the players because I think the run that we'd been on, the results that we'd got, I think we'd played, I think it was around about the time we'd played Brøndby and that kind of thing. And he said he apologised, he overreacted, he's asked so much of the players. And I think if David Gray came out and quite stated, like, or quite kind of straight to the point, says, wasn't good enough, should have won the rest of it, it could turn things a wee bit sour or leave a kind of bad taste. So I get why he's saying that. And I thought his views on the penalties were good as well. He didn't quite say they definitely weren't or definitely were. It was like we've kind of gave them the opportunities almost. Even with the first one, Meany and turned to each other. And Waugh knew it was a handball, but when you're at the game, you're not quite aware of the position and things like that. And we knew it was coming. You just had that feeling. And for the second one, obviously, it was the opposite end of the ground. But as Stephen was saying there, he kind of came out at like a funny angle rather than sort of cover his near post. He's committed to winning the ball, but then you get these decisions one week and then you don't the next. And the first one I've thought of was Kyogo against us, because I think Marshall caught that and the ball was in his hands, so it wasn't like still in play. And then it obviously happened with Boyle. I think it might have happened with Boyle in our game at Easter Road as well, where the argument was the ball had went out of play. But I think the fact that we're still unbeaten, it can only be a good thing. We've still got that momentum of not losing. But then, I think if you look back over the most recent games, it's like 4 draws and 1 win or something.
Aye.
So when you look at it that way, there's all these different ways you can kind of look at things. But whatever happens, we need to go. And I think Saturday's huge because you look at. Sorry to jump ahead, but if you look at I think you used the Aberdeen stats as an example. If you didn't know the score, you'd have said they'd won that 4 or 5-0. Do you know what I mean? So they're obviously capable of keeping the ball, playing with the ball, creating chances. We just need to do it at St Mirren and take ours when we get them, which is something that we've not always been doing.
Mike, can I just come in there before we lose what you were asking Callum there? Because I think there's a way to say that our performance was unacceptable. Us not winning the game was unacceptable. I think it's perfectly okay for David Gray to say that without criticising the players, right? I think he should take responsibility for it. He should say, we should have won that game. And it is very disappointing that we haven't won the game. And I've got to look at myself and say, why did we not win the game? We've got a really good squad of players. We've been performing well. We've been scoring goals. And I will get to the bottom of it. Because it is his responsibility. We have got much better players in Ross County. We just got the tactics wrong.
It does feel like we're a team who let these points go away from us a lot. It's sort of like a season on season habit that we never quite achieve what we want to achieve because of games like that.
We shouldn't. I mean, just as Callum said there, we shouldn't be saying, or I think it might be Stephen said, we shouldn't be saying, other people struggle at Ross County. We've got to set our own standards, and our standards can't be based on Dundee United or Motherwell or something. We have to be aiming for a much higher standard.
What are the questions I've got? Jack, I'll come to you on this one. We've seen the teams sort of, we mentioned it at the start, right? The almost picks itself. And we're now in a position where we've got some players returning to become available for selection. So Joe Newell's no far away from being back in the squad. Bowie and Kukovic are back in there. So almost sort of naturally that disrupts that sort of consistent team selection. Is there a risk, Jack, that we sort of unsettle a winning team and in trying to get players back into the team? You worried about that?
It might a wee bit, but I think we can still keep our good performances going with other players coming in. It might mix it up a bit.
Kieran said on YouTube, he said the brakes need to be put on Bowie. Expectations looked a bit off it at the weekend, sharpness wise. What are you thinking about Bowie being back, Jack? I mean, I know he's a player that you like.
Yeah, I think it's more or less just gain him minutes gradually because he's came back from a serious hamstring injury, so you don't want to risk it, and because then he might get another injury and you don't want to lose him again, do we?
No, definitely no. But well, from a player coming back to a player leaving, Josh Landers, Jack, we were talking about it before we started recording away to West Ham. I think Hibs said to get a 6-figure fee plus a
Yeah,
sell on him. How are you feeling
yeah.
about
Yeah, so the last time I seen him play was in the Youth Champions League, I think it was, so I've not really seen much of him, but it's just a shame he never got a chance. But these things are going to happen. If the right offer comes in, they're away.
Ian, we were talking about it as well about the importance of having youth players in a pathway there for them to the first team. Is this just the way of the world now that the English clubs will come in and take the best talent when they want it?
We were chatting before the episode started, and I just felt that really disappointed that Josh Landers has not been played this season while we've been really struggling up front, and he played last season. So and I just wondered why he hadn't played this season. It just seems like I don't know what the strategy is. We've got to have a strategy for young players. We've got to know, as Darren McGregor and Boozy said on the Hibs Buzz, their only reason for having the under-18s academy, the only reason for having it is to produce first-team players. Mm-hmm. And the under-18s are playing very well just now. So I can't understand why we can produce Josh Landers, who gets a game last year, we've been struggling this year, and I can't understand why he's allowed to go. Obviously a 6-figure sum, I don't know what that means.
It's just like 100,000 upwards, mate.
That's right. Yeah.
What do you think is a reasonable return for the academy, Ian? Like, is it, we've seen this season, obviously Molotnikov is in the team. We had the young lad whose name's just going right. Was it Gilly? Came in against Clydebank.
Lewis, someday. Hi, Lewis.
At 16-year-olds. There's been players sort of on the bench a couple of times this season. What is a good return for a team like Hibs for the youth team coming up to the first team of a season?
Perhaps 3 players or 4 players getting a game, being introduced, being introduced at some time during the year. Us keeping a very close eye on the loan players and bringing people like Canayo in if we're struggling for, like Canayo was brought back last year, mm-hmm. and then he was sent back again. So I think we should definitely be expecting 3 or 4 players to get in, and we should definitely have them ahead of the loan players.
Cal, you get your hand up when you come.
I think people have been a bit too critical of this. St Johnstone have lost a player. Dundee United have lost 2 that have not been anywhere near their first team to teams down south. This is a new strategy for teams in England, I believe. I think back to when Cummings made his debut. The writing was on the wall for us. We were in free fall under Butcher, and Cummings came in with nothing to lose. Really, he had to try something. I think at the start, I appreciate Landers on the bench a couple of times last season, made a couple of appearances, but if he was thrown in at the beginning of this season when we were bottom of the league, I think all hell would have broken loose. It would have looked desperate. Listen, not to say the laddie could have came on and scored, but I don't think we were in the position to kind of put that kind of pressure on him. But these teams can throw 300-400 grand at a few players, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And the other thing I'll say is, when Laidlaw, O'Connor, and Young were coming through, Young went to Rangers, didn't work out. He's now after taking 3 or 4 years, he's got moved to Dunfermline. But Laidlaw's yet to make a first team appearance for Brentford as well. So. Mm-hmm. Listen, if Laddie moves on, does well, then fair enough. But there's absolutely nothing to say that he will. Yes, there's not been the production line that coming for the academy that maybe hope for. But then over the years, we've been, I think, fairly blessed in terms of the players that we have had. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I do think there's been a bit of an overreaction, because I don't know how many fans can actually hold their hands up and say they've seen him play. There is a few, obviously, but I just do think people have been a wee bit overcritical.
I think there's Stephen. It's kind of the nature of the world now that because of Brexit, English clubs, in fact, British clubs can't buy or sign under 18s from outside of the UK to come in and play, or EU countries. I can't remember if it's anywhere in the world or just the EU that we're not allowed to sign the 18 and under from. So for the English clubs, the Scottish market all of a sudden becomes a bit more appealing. You expect to see sort of more of these sort of transactions as we go, Stephen?
Absolutely. And when you have, what was it, Laidlaw that went to Brentford? Obviously, young lads went to West Ham. You know, I can imagine the money he's been offered and the terms and conditions, the lifestyle, all that sort of stuff. I can absolutely understand why he's chosen to go. And ultimately, Carl makes an excellent point. Would they have made it at Hibs? We'll never know now. But ultimately, Hibs have given him that springboard to develop to the age that he's at, and ultimately the club's made a 6-figure fee, which, you know, could be as little as 100 grand, could be as much as 999,000. If that gets invested back into the facilities and it helps produce more players, it's a natural cycle of football life, isn't it? It's a lot of the best. However, in the English league, I can't see him ever making it in the Premier League down south, because ultimately, if West Ham are struggling in the January transfer window, and they've got a young laddie that's came down from Scotland, or they've got the transfer window closing, what they're going to do, they're going to get the chequebook out. So I hope he makes it. Chances are he probably won't, but ultimately the academy's done its job in producing a player that's clearly got talent. Callum's spot on. If he was thrown in at the start of the season when we were really struggling, it could have. I just think back to Gullen, Jamie Gullen, when he was sort of breaking through. He was coming through just at the point it was starting to go a bit pear-shaped at Hibs, and he was getting chances, and I don't think his goal return was particularly great, but I thought he was one that probably could have made it a few years ago, and obviously he's since moved on to Wraith Rovers. But ultimately, my view is it's a great move for the laddie. He's obviously chosen to go. It's financially, it's a good move for Hibs as well. So yeah, I think it would have been nice to have seen him develop at Hibs, but ultimately, if a bigger club comes along, even at the first team level, we can't hold players back if they want to go, and that goes right in the levels.
And I think that's a good point as well. The player has a say in what happens to him, and these are the sort of opportunities of a lifetime for a player. I mean, I think virtually any footballer that you're asked would want to kind of get a move to a Premiership club, so it's hard to deny the lad it. Ian, you were talking about Boozy and Darren McGregor talking about the only reason for the development team being to provide players for the first team. Should they also have an eye on that model of getting players who are good enough to sell before they make the first team? If that's the way it's going, should that be another measure for their success?
Generation transfer fees is always a measure of the success. I don't know whether selling somebody at Porto's age with that experience behind them is a better way of doing it. I mean, I presume we're going to get more money for somebody at that level. We obviously take in players, we develop them, and on the go, and that's normal. But the thing that horrifies me is the fact that there's no obvious strategy, because Leanne Dempster said, a few years ago now, we're only bringing players in who are candidates for the first team. That we're only bringing in young players who are candidates for the young first team, and I think that's a strategy. And to me, we should, the under-18s are playing really well just now, and when you're playing Clydebank, obviously you got a chance to put in young players, but equally, I think putting in someone instead of Nathan Morales, we could have put somebody in, because Nathan's, I don't think he's a tremendous player. But we could bring in youngsters, or okay, Jimmy Gillan is a very good example of somebody that looked like he was really capable of being a decisive player for us. And I can't remember what caused them to. I always blame our constant change in head coach. That's what I always blame. So a lot of players have left us. Going down to some players that disappear because, as Ivan Spello said in that very same episode that Darren and Boozy were talking about, Pat Fenlon came in and didn't fancy me, which is ridiculous, because Pat Fenlon was utterly incompetent. It was utterly ridiculous that we had somebody like that trying to run Hibs, and to me, having a constant turnover of players and bringing players like Owen Tudor Jones and God knows who else over the years, That's been our problem, is the lack of stability. Whereas if there's an obvious strategy for bringing young players through and we publish that and everybody knows where they stand, then I think that's the most important thing, that we have a strategy in place.
We should really have trigger warnings if you're going to start throwing names like Owen Tudor Jones about, like, just in case anybody's watching, they start sort of having, flashbacks and PTSD, etc. We did have a strategy a while back, though, didn't we? We had like this development team. Remember that when when Ron Gordon took over and we spent all this money on the development team, and did any of them come through? I'm trying to think, like, if who would still be on the books? Is Del Ferry still on the books? He's out on loan, isn't he, at the moment? I think maybe he's the only one.
He's in Luxembourg,
Aye, but I think we'll see him again.
What I mean is that you had, you and I were on working together. Hibs were working together. At the time we had that meeting with Petrie, and Petrie said to me, "Are you saying that a new manager, can you bring in his own players?" And I said, "Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying." You get somebody like an arsehole like Neil Lennon who decides on the spot at the moment that because somebody doesn't sign their contract in time, we lose Fraser Friday, one of their heroes in 2016. Fraser Friday was an excellent player, but Lennon just acted like an arsehole, because he wanted to.
Right, from young players going, we had a 26-year-old arrive at the club, subject to all your usual clearances, etc. Alasana Manneh. I hope I've not butchered his name. Jack, do you know much about this boy? You like to do a wee bit of digging onto them?
No, I've never heard of him, to be honest. No, somebody that I've not really looked into, to be honest, yet, technically.
Okay, so what are you hoping to see from him?
Hopefully, just see what he can produce, because midfielders, we haven't had our luck with them, but I've seen good midfielders during my days, but I want to see what he can produce on the left-sided midfielder.
And have you had a wee look at his YouTube deal yet?
I've seen that, yeah. It looks pretty interesting. Showing what he can really do as a player, some of the goals and his assets.
I try not to get sucked into the YouTube deals. Like they've been hurt so many times with them.
You could say that, and then they're like, "Oh, they're very poor." What was the point in that?
Nobody puts out their worst bits. They should have that side by side, like the players' best bits and then their worst bits as well, so you get the balance.
Yeah, so then you can get the balance.
I'm not sure you'd be paying your agent to be doing that.
Because we've done that with Dylan Venti, and it was the exact same outcome. It was like, ugh.
Steve, what were you expecting to see from?
Well, certainly he seems to have came with a decent reputation. I think he started off way back when at Barcelona in their B side. I don't know how many appearances he made, but you would like to think if he's making it to that level and even getting released at 2021, whatever it was, or moved on at that age, he's obviously got a bit of something about him, you would hope. At the very least, it's an extra central midfielder potential, isn't it? Which we've certainly got enough of. I'm hoping that he pushes. I think I've said this a few times in the phone-ins before. Competition for places for me is a big thing. If you've got players that are competing, 2 or 3 players competing for 1 or 2 spaces, it drives everybody forward. So hopefully he'll bring that element to the squad. I'll be honest. I think is he not for the same country as the left back that got sent off in the cup final? Aye.
So again, trigger warning. We need.
I tried to start a bit when I said that. So I'm not sold on footballers from the Gambia. It's not exactly a football hotbed, but you know what? We'll give him a chance. If he comes in, I mean, it looks for the highlight reel. And you're right. I remember Melkerson's highlight reel properly giving me a proper stoner before I went to bed that night when I seen that before we signed him. Highlight reel looks decent, but hopefully he can translate it onto the pitch. Hopefully he can do it on a cold night, wet in Dingwall in the future.
Callum, there's a really good piece in the Hibs Observer where they sort of break down what sort of a midfielder is. But one of the things David Gray called out was that he was left-sided. So are we looking at a potential Joe Newell replacement, do you think?
It seems to be very pleased. I'd say to Ian at the game on Saturday, and I hope I've got this right, but remember at the transfer window round up, they did that interview with Malky Mackay, and he got asked a question about this £1 million bid for McKeown, and he went on to say we weren't just spending that for the player, we're spending it for the character and the personality. And this was the reason they were going all in on McKibben. And you look at this Manneh, you look at his height, his ability, he's left-sided. It's in the same mould as McKibben. He can play a 6, can play an 8. So I don't know why he's kind of, because I think the question was asked, they were trying to be fair to the fans to say, you're saying there's £1 million available. Why didn't go elsewhere? And his argument was because McKibben's just great character, great personality.
Mm-hmm.
So we've obviously went back for that. I think it is certainly going to keep Joe Newell on his toes, because I generally couldn't think of the last left-footed centre midfielder we've had in the time that Joe Newell's been at the club. Maybe a couple. I've watched the wee 30-second thing that Hibs posted, but some of the comments already, like, look how much time he's got in that league. Trigger warning, Paku Jabi's had more caps for his country than this guy did at the same age in that, and it's like, fucking give the laddie a chance. I genuinely don't know, because I've never watched the second division in Denmark. So, but as Stephen said, he's played at La Masia for a number of years. He's clearly got something about him. Appreciate that doesn't always translate to kind of full kind of adults football, but I think it's a very positive sign, and they've obviously tried to address that in the summer. They've now managed it, so all the best to the laddie, and I hopefully can get us a win in Dingwall.
Ian, I think he was widely expected to leave the club when Odense got relegated. He was the best player that season, and they all expected him to leave, but he stuck around for the next season. Should we be worried that this guy's got no ambition? It speaks to his loyalty, doesn't it? I was just, I was joking.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, the point about bringing in players, we obviously have to decide what we want to do. Do we want to compete with Celtic, or do we want to go for third place? To guarantee third place, we'll need better players than we currently got. We might still get third or fourth place with the players we currently got. So we've got to be prepared to replace players with players that are better than them. We have to be prepared to do that. So I love Joe Newell. But and I love Dylan Levitt. But if we get a better player than them, then they move ahead of them. I mean, who would have guessed that? Obviously, Nectar Triantis is playing out of skin just now. So who's he going to displace? Probably Joe.
I think that's a good way to look at it. Even if you look at Obita, last season's Player of the Year, and has found himself out of the team because. Iredale's been playing so well at left back with Nicky Cadden in front of him. I think you have to be looking to do that as a team and not really have that sentiment and just be pushing him every window.
I mean, when you got a player like Siobhan Hunter, she's got to keep on being as good as she's been. For years, she's got to keep at that level. Otherwise, it'd be quite right for Grant to replace her as well. So it's the same with every team.
Mm-hmm. IB's 3 Rangers 2 said, bit of an overreaction from some folk about the Ross County result. Sometimes it just doesn't fall our way. Calm down. Ian said, could say that about too many games. We should be making things fall for us. Sandy say, got to say IB's 3 Rangers 2. What a great handle to have a chat. Yep, that's a good one. Paul said, would Lewis Miller fall into one of Ian Gordon's projects? I think Lewis Miller probably was signed in that sort of bring him in and sell him on, so probably. Stevie says, hope he's not the new Tavares. And Ian says he could be the new Latapi, not Lewis Miller. We're talking about Manneh there. And Paul says you don't end up at Barca if you haven't got a bit about you, surely.
So, I mean, what do we think? I mean, we've got to assume that Gavin Stewart is the person that's brought this guy in, right? So, and we all looked forward to seeing the results of a professional in this area. So we've got to assume that it was him that brought him in. So, I'm encouraged if a professional that took over from an amateur in terms of recruitment brings somebody like that, and I think we should be expecting somebody very good.
Right. I hope this is like the if you think the summer window was Malky's just in the door, I was always prepared to give him the benefit of the doubt for that window. I think the recruitment process and the lead up to that wasn't the best. I don't think. From my own opinion, I think Brian McDermott did enough in his role to warrant a wage. So I was prepared to write off that window, but you're right, you've got Gavin Stewart in before this window. There's been however many months since Malky came in to get ready for this window as well. This is really the first proper test of are they competent and are we going to get players that are a level above what we've been getting before. Right, Callum, Saturday we've got Aberdeen, a chance to reel them into within touching distance of us. How do you see that one panning out?
I think we need to go on the offensive from the start. Take it to them. They'll be so fragile, and I think we need to break that early rather than get them to grow into the game. As Ian said, Chantis has been playing at his skin. He was so good again on Saturday on a horrible part. He sold one of the boys a nutmeg in the middle of the park. It was just unbelievable. So we need big performances for big players. I would like to change the front two. I don't know if he will. But it just didn't seem to work on Saturday with Boyle and Gale. As I say, they don't really take the ball with their back to the game or anything like that. Whether he does, I don't know. But I think we need, as you do in most games, you need to start bright, to start quick. And I think if we can break their spirits early on, then I think we're in for a fairly solid win.
Who would you start with up top? Because obviously we have got like Miko, Bowie, Boyle, Gale. I don't know. I think Yuan's still nursing a sore toe.
Well, we just loan Landers back, hat trick, bang.
Bring him back. Sorted.
I'm not really sure. Bowie said he's 100% fit in terms of how he feels. I don't think he was off on Saturday. I just think by that point, County had a lot of the ball. We had a few throws, and you could hear Ian screaming, "Get him at defeat!" But they just plonked somebody right in front of him. He never really had a chance. I know he was on for a good kind of 25 minutes, but the game by that point was kind of played in either the middle of the park or kind of an hour and a half. So I would certainly give Bowie a start, because Gale can come on and obviously give you that wee bit of magic. He's proved a few times he can come off the bench and get us a goal. I would keep the midfield in the back three the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Stephen, what about you? How do you see it going?
I think Callum's spot on. We need to go for the jugular right for the start. I certainly don't want a win. That's a strange way to start a sentence. I would certainly take the win, but I'd certainly rather take it in the manner of going for the jugular than what St Mirren did, which was really just 3 points up the park and they scored from it last Saturday. So yeah, if we strike early, I think they've got the tendency right now in this run that they're on to concede the second goal in the game as well. So yeah, if we can make a strong start, siege mentality, but at home, and you spot on, Matt, if we can close that gap by another 3 points, you know, that they're, I think, is it within 2 points at that point, and they're continuing to be, and you made a good point, Matt, in extra time as well, that you'd rather be the team chasing down the 5 points than the team having to make up the 5 points, or the team below that's out the form. So, yeah, if we can get one on Saturday, I would like to think that would really spur us on. Aberdeen are an absolute free fall, and we need to properly take advantage of that. So, yeah, strong from the start. I'm not sure I would go with up front. I'm not sure if it's quite right to start Bowie, but equally, I'm not sure I would go with Boyle and Gale. So I'd probably look to bring in Kukurevic again, even though he's woefully out of form, nor do I actually think he's particularly effective. But Gale and Boyle, you're right, it just didn't work on Saturday. Not sure if it would work on a bigger pitch, who knows, possibly. But yeah, I'd maybe look to change up the front two as well.
The last one at Easter Road, obviously that 3-3 is widely sort of seen as the sliding doors moment in both teams' seasons, although I think Aberdeen were already on a bit of a slide by then anyway. We need to make sure this doesn't go the other way, you know, where we do something daft and then Aberdeen all of a sudden use it as a springboard for their season. Ian, how would you set us up on Saturday for it?
I've got to agree. We have to attack from the start. Kathleen McGovern up front, no problem at all. But the thing that worries me is that the English guy, Shaden Morris, the guy that came on at the end of the game, because he seems to come on with like 20 minutes to go. So we've got to be careful when that happens. But we can definitely beat them, and we have to attack from the start. I would definitely play Kieran Bowie up front right from the start. I would definitely play him from the start, even if he only lasts half an hour or less. I would play him from the start. We need a striker, a nominated striker, and it's certainly not Kukurevic. So we've got to attack. I would play Kieran Bowie up front, but we've got to be careful about the English guy, Shaden Morris.
Rob on the YouTube said 6-0 Hibs, Campbell hat-trick and Thielen Beelan. Kieran said Mackay said that the club have tracked him for a while. This would be Manneh, so I don't think it was a Garvin Stewart signing. Paul said if Bowie's fit enough, he has to start. If Yuan is over his transfer window injury yet, we could do with his creativity. Ian said they're on the rack. Where have I heard that before? We definitely should be keeping them on the run. And Ramey said Boyle has to play. He loves playing Aberdeen and scored loads of goals against them. Josh Campbell's got a great record against Aberdeen as well. So I'd quite like to see him in the team. Jack, how do you see it going?
Feeling positive. I mean, you've seen how the first two games I've went with Aberdeen, the 3-3, and then the game at Pittodrie, that was a good game as well. Like, I liked that. That was our first win against them. So if we can try and play how we have against them, then we can get the win. Try and press them for the start, and I'd start Bowie and Gale up front.
You would start Bowie and Gale, so
Something different.
dropping Boyle together, or would you move him out wide?
I'd probably have Boyle on maybe in the second half, because I've noticed that when he comes on in the second half, he's feeling more energy as well.
So what would you reckon the score will be, Jack?
I want to stick with the same as the Pittodrie score, 3-1 Hibs.
3-1 Hibs. Decent. I had another question in my head that I was going to ask you. I was going to move the topic on, and I cannot remember for the fucking life of me what I was about to ask, which is just typical. Right, we will wrap up. Ian, what do you reckon the score's going to be?
It'll be a draw. I think it'll be 1-0.
Right, so we've got a 3-1 for Jack, a 1-0 for Ian. Stephen, what are you saying?
I fancy us for an unusually rare clean sheet, so I'm going to go 2-0 Hibs.
2-0 Hibs. Well, we'll have our preview show tomorrow, so I'll hold fire on my score prediction for that one. We'll be on about 4:15 if you want to keep an eye on YouTube for that. If you want to submit a team, so Sandy's already done it. Sandy, I know you're watching just now. Thanks for emailing in your team. We normally get one from through Joe as well. But if you want to submit a team for inclusion, just email us at longbangers@gmail.com, or you can get us on Blue Sky as well. We'll be there. We'll be talking about the game, get your score predictions in, etc. Ian, Jack, and Stephen, and Callum, who had to drop off, thanks very much for joining us. Thanks for everybody for tuning in, and we will see you all next time.